Hey everyone, it's Shay Seeking and I'm back. I'm gonna do a little bit of something, I guess, on the fact that his story lied. Um, I have this old book and I think that this book is really messing with my allergies or something. Because sorry, because I have it open here now and it just feels like it's like dusty or something around here. But the book, I'm just going to go ahead and say the name and I'm going to go ahead and remove it because I have the screenshots here or the shots that I took with my phone. So it is called America, an Encyclopedia of the History and Biography, arranged in chronological paragraphs with full accounts of prehistoric America and the Indians. Okay. It says, and notes on the contemporaneous history. It also says, containing a complete record of exploration, conquest, revolutionary struggles, political challenges or changes, social movements, industrial achievements, curious, I don't know, it just says that, important and thrilling events, remarkable expeditions, romantic adventures, and marvelous inventions in the discovery and developments of North and South America. This is a long title. Sorry. With biographies of the leaders thereof. Okay, so it says elegantly illustrated out of Chicago in 1883. And on the front page, it just so happens that we have a very nice image of George Washington. Okay? So out of everything that is being said, or that everything that was in the, sorry if it sounds like I'm far away, but I'm trying to move some of these books, and they're very old and they're falling apart. And I kind of cherish these books to a certain extent. So trying to be gentle with it. But like I said, out of everything else that could have been in the front of that book with that long title, we have a picture of George Washington. So when we're speaking of these gods, I keep asking you guys, I wonder what we're actually talking about. Or who. Okay? So this channel is for those who have removed all of their feelings away from such things as religion and what you believe and what you think and what you love about your celebrities. And, you know, we're just pointing certain things out that, you know, people may want to pay a little bit more attention to. So sorry about that. That was probably a little rude for me to be doing all that movement. But, you know, I'm just really in this space right now. It's pretty late. I should be in bed. You guys know that. I'm dealing with a lot in my household right now as far as getting ready for a new, or within my family, getting ready for a new addition that's going to be coming into the family in a couple of weeks. You know, we have school starting back for some of these people. You know, it's just been a lot. It's just been a lot. I have a lot to do around this place. And, you know, I feel like I'm always in a challenge with the family, respecting my time that I need in order to do things that I need to feed my soul. And this is one of them. And so I feel like a lot has been taken from it. And I was on the brink of something really big, and now it's starting to dwindle. You know how sometimes you're researching or you're looking into something and the energy is there. Everything is being placed in front of you. All the information is coming. And then, you know, personal things or worldly things, you know, that you have to deal with people that you care about and things that you probably should get done, you know, end up getting in the way of that. And then I just feel like I'm losing whatever it was that I had. But I'm going to keep on working on it because I just told myself that I was going to get this stuff basically ready for you guys. I was going to go ahead and do a little bit of a better job of looking up the information and getting it ready and laying it out for you guys. So enough of the rambling. That's just for you guys that were wondering where I've been in the past couple of weeks, because I did start doing videos pretty often and then I kind of just dropped off. But I'm working on something really big right now. So just bear with me with that. So let's go ahead and look at this book. Okay, I've moved everything out of the way. Yeah, it feels like my hand is itching and everything. The book is in terrible condition. I mean, maybe I'll show the book to you guys one day, but okay. It says section 2. We're just going to start here just because I thought it would be cool to read something about the American Aborigines. You barely get to see anything that says American Aborigines, so I just figured we'll start here. When Columbus stepped upon the beach of San Salvador, he supposed that he was standing upon the soil of India. Now, I don't know why he would think that, but, you know, that's the popular belief that a lot of people say. That a lot of people say. That he was going to India or something of that matter. The name Indies was therefore very naturally applied by him to the island he had discovered. I don't know why he would think that India was an island, but okay. And the name Indians to the inhabitants of them. Now, when he came, we can look at Columbus, San Salvador, and I just would like to know what date that was, because he came here a couple of different times, I'm hearing, or I've read. So we'll just get more into depth about that. Okay? And it says that he gave that name to the inhabitants. Okay? So he named the inhabitants. Why is that important? Okay, because he didn't name them Hispanics. He didn't name them Mexicans. He didn't name them Africans, Black, Native American. He named them or said that they were Indians, okay? Now, I'm pretty sure they may have been something else prior to that because, of course, if he made this name up and started calling these people this name, then that means that he didn't speak to the people or he couldn't understand or he didn't know what to call them. So obviously they already called themselves something, unless he knew, like some people think, where he was going and exactly who he was looking for. Okay? So if this was the case, then I guess he would be correct and maybe the name was Indians before he came here. And he's just trying to play dumb. But if it's not the case, then they would have probably been called something else more than likely. And this is the name that he made for them. Okay? So, through nearly 4 centuries, this term has been universally applied. Okay? Universally. Now, I'm guessing that everybody in the universe is calling these people this name. Maybe even the people that had already been here or knew that low-key are acting like they didn't know who was here. Or, maybe they didn't. Maybe some of these people didn't know. I think they didn't know. I think they knew, but they just didn't know exactly how to get here. Okay? I think that, to be honest with you, whoever it was that led them here were supposedly friend, but really foe. And I think they look more like us than we think. Okay? So, through nearly 4 centuries, this term has been universally applied to the native. Okay, so now, through nearly 4 centuries, this term, now this book was written in 1883, I think I said. Okay. This term has been universally applied to the native races of America. Again, what is a native? Let's look. You know what? I don't even think I've done this as many times as I've been in that 1828 dictionary. I would like to see what the term native uh, stood for, or was, or what the definition was back then. So the native races of America, that could have been anyone. That could have been, like I said, the people that were brought here, or people that sprung from the archetype, or the people of the soil, or the soil itself, the dry land, the land, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So, okay. Okay. So, having become in the course of time a well settled designation for them in all, or, and I don't know why they're spacing the words out so much for this sentence. If anybody can help me understand, or understand, overstand what that actually means when they do things like that, um, that would be great. So, where are we? Okay, a well settled. So now it's well settled. Okay, this location is now well settled. So if we're talking about the Aborigines, and then we go off and we start talking about natives. Okay, so this means that people were already over here even before Columbus got here, that were not the Aborigines or the original people. We can probably agree to say that. Okay. So for them in all ordinary descriptions, okay, it includes in its use all the tribes dwelling within the western continent at the time of discovery. Okay, so that's all the inhabitants. Wait, let's see. It includes in its use, okay, all the tribes dwelling within the western continent. And again, we can look at that as the United States, or we can look at it for the whole thing. It didn't separate it. It didn't separate Canada. So from Canada, all from the Rudy all the way to the Tootie, we can say that that's the western continent. Okay. So at the time of its discovery. Now, many of these people could have been planted here. That is what was going on with God and the Lord God in Genesis, the first couple of chapters. That yielding seed and all this other stuff, and turning the darkness to light. That is what you call watering or flooding a nation. Okay, and that was occurring first. Okay, that's how you get division going on. That's why you get confusion, and you get these things going on. You get uh, uh, class systems. You get color. You get people separating by color. You get it. You get a whole bunch of stuff going on at this point in time. Okay. So don't think that they didn't already flood the nation with these people and then come back when the barrier had been broken a little bit. Okay. Okay. And today people tend to side with people that are like them, in a sense of either you came from the same place they came from, you look like them, you do some of the same things as them. So again, that would cause some type of conflict, just like we have in different places now, that we know that in certain neighborhoods, for some reason, weapons just appear. These people don't have factories, they can't afford to, and they don't have any way to create or make these guns, but they're the main things that are killing the people in those locations. Okay, and people can get locked up for everything else, but for some reason they can't get a hold on how or these guns are making it in, and they can't arrest any. They can't seem to be arresting, because they tell us about these shootings all the time in Chicago and stuff, but it seems like no one ever is getting arrested. With all the cameras and stuff they have up, you would just, I don't know. But anyway, it just seems like they can't control these things, but I was just really more on the verge of saying how this whole thing with ISIS and how they may have gotten a lot of their weapons from the war that happened over there. That some of the weapons that some people think that somebody might have just been lazy or took a side eye to, leaving a whole bunch of weapons and artillery over there in certain places. And some of these groups, so-called terrorist groups, have their hands on some of these things, and this is how they've been able to pull off some of the things that they've been doing. It's just hearsay. And you can believe what you want. I just bring forth things that I have read, come across, heard, or whatnot. Okay? So let's keep it moving. Okay, so Western continent at the time of its discovery and covers, therefore, the Mexicans and Peruvians with their apparent civilization. I would like to see what a civilization is too. Okay, so natives, yes, these would be natives. Okay, Mexicans would be natives, unless unless I just scrolled through Instagram and saw somebody post a picture of the darker view, thick curly haired Mexican peoples that are found still tucked away in some portions of Mexico today. So, unless we're talking about those people that his story may try to lead you to believe that they came from Africa, hey, who could I mean, I don't know if the numbers are accurate at the people that they brought into Mexico or not. That's something that I still leave open because I don't know, something just doesn't register right with me when it comes to those numbers as well. But we'll get there. So that these people were covered. Okay, now it says, therefore, the Mexican and Peruvians, with their apparent civilization, as well as the wilder tribes of the South America, okay, and the red men of North America, okay. So now they're telling you who was all included in the native population, okay. As the American continent was opened more and more widely to the knowledge of the world, okay, a great variety of tribes was found to exist within it. Okay, so the more that they came in to plant their seeds and move across the land, manifest destiny, all these things that occurred. Now, oh shoot, I'm knocking stuff over. I probably need to stop. I'll move my hand so much. So, let's see. Okay. So the wilder tribes of South America and the red men of North America. Mind you, a lot of moving around has occurred due to people coming in, tribes moving on. They didn't want to stay around. Lots of things. Lots of people were plucked from here. They don't tell you in the mainstream textbooks about the fact that Columbus was bringing thousands of people, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people from South America and taking them over to the other continent over there. Okay. So, let's see. This was very noticeable even within the few islands to which the first exploration of Columbus was confined. There were the peaceable tribes of the Bahamas and the larger West India islands. Okay, I'd like to see what we're actually talking about at that time when it comes to the West India. Oh, wait a minute. I put Indian islands. Okay. So, excuse me. So I'm guessing this is talking about like what we call the West Indies today, maybe. But again, the people in the Bahamas and Jamaica are very peaceful and friendly people. Not to say that they probably didn't know how to get down if they had to, but I'm just saying they're still a pleasant people to be around. And I think that a lot of people still think that because they still like to go visit this place. Okay. Um, I mean, of course, for the, you know, the the scenery as well. But again, people usually say that they're friendly. Although some people will try to tell you that there's some parts that you shouldn't go into, but that goes for everywhere you go. Okay. I think they try to keep people off the beaten path so that you don't connect with others more than for your safety. But that's just my opinion. I've never even been there. So let's see. The fiercer, more warlike Caribbee tribes. Okay. I don't know if that's talking about like the Caribs. Um, okay. Which made their raids upon other islands for captives and booty. Okay. So these people um, went and took stuff from other places. And then it says, I don't know what was here. Like I said, I hate when I see these big gaps. And then this looks like a period, but we don't even have a capital letter here. So looks like something might be missing. So some space in the single island of Haiti. Okay. I think it's spelled differently today. But I like to keep these, I like to jot these down because you never know what you can find if you use those terms. These clans were found in a considerable number along the coast where such tribes as the one ruled by, um, who was that? Mm, sorry, I'm trying to write it down. Okay, uh, Gua, Guacanagari. I see. Yeah, there's a lot of goodness. Still have spilled water over here. When Columbus discovered the island, so the Canary, I don't know. I don't know. We'll just have to look it up. While in the interior, among the mountains, okay, were other intractable ones, okay, with whom no reliable intercourse could be held. Okay, so they couldn't really deal with these people, I'm guessing. So, the same variety existed throughout the entire continent. So these people didn't really want to deal, I guess. It's just what I'm thinking, okay? So, were other intractable ones, which whom no reliable intercourse could be held. So they were unreliable, okay? Um, the same variety existed throughout the entire continent. I guess, hey, so I guess it is saying that. It was most apparent in the regions where the least civilization was found. So the less people were there, it was more apparent that these people weren't really trying to deal with y'all. In the vast territory now covered by the United States, there were scores of tribes with no common center of life and government. So within that area that was, belonging to the United States at this time, you know, this is what was going on. Okay. Now, could it be because all of that infrastructure was already taken down by whoever was coming in and raiding the place? Because, okay, we try to act like Columbus is the only one, and that was the earliest, but who knows what was really going on? Who knows? I'm pretty sure there was other people that were coming in. Wherever Columbus came, he did not come into the actual United States. So maybe this is a comment from someone else. Maybe it was later on. I mean, I just don't know. But again, I don't recall him making his way to actually to the United States, or what we would call it today. Um, Now it said it was true in most cases of these tribes. Uh, this was true in most cases, even of those tribes which belonged to the same great family. So each tribe wandered, hunted, fished, made war according to its own likes and dislikes, but its variety was as real where the great government of the continent spread themselves abroad in power. Okay, so I guess it was real crazy where the government ended up, laying their foundation or their firmament with their militia or their military power or force or might. Okay, so okay, so Cortez found different tribes subject to Montezuma, some willingly and some unwillingly. Um, Pizarro came upon them. Oh, no, no, Pizarro. Okay, I've never heard of, I don't think I've heard of this guy, or I didn't write him down in my little notebook. Okay, so I'm guessing they're saying some people were under Montezuma's rule, and some wanted to be there, and some didn't want to be there. So, for some reason, in the back of my mind, there's this alternative story about let my people go. Since in some cases, I'm seeing that they would like us to think that some of these people may have been melanated people, but I'm starting to recant on a couple of these stories. I don't think that all of the people in the book were melanated. I don't think that the book was for us. I think that we have been fooled into worshiping and looking at certain beings that might just be of bloodlines and family trees and of foreign entities and of people of that deal with the government, or with captains and military men and presidents and senators. Like, I just think that a lot of this stuff has to do with these people, and they made us believe in this, and so we've latched on to it. And I don't think that the American Indian or the people that were originally here were to comply with these things. Okay, I think they used very treacherous ways to get us to submit and consume this stuff here, and look at it as it is something that is greater, or something that is, we're giving all of our energy to this, which is giving us a bad rep, because we are not honoring our mothers and fathers by stating that we're African, when most of our grandparents would tell you that you have Indian in your family. So let's keep on going. Okay, so I'm wondering if, like I was saying, I'm wondering if some of this stuff, when it comes to Montezuma, or some of this stuff, like I said, some of these people were under him willing and unwillingly, and then these tribes did get pushed and moved, and then you have your abandoned pyramids and all your temples and all these other things. Yeah, I don't know. It just makes me think, because we do know that there were so-called white people in this country that were slaves. So I'm wondering if some of these people came over here, they may have run into the wrong tribes that did not want to play with them, and they might have turned them into slave laborers, or some kind of captives or something. And what if some of these people were coming over here in order to bring, to release those people? And what if this Moses might have something to do with one of these bloodlines, like the Adams family that we're doing that research on right now? In all actuality, we're looking at these people as our saviors, and it's never going to happen. Okay, so I'm just thinking, I'm thinking now, what are we really doing? Like I told you guys before, we can't be everybody in the Bible. So then once I start plucking this stuff together, apart, people are not going to probably like the outcome of this alternative view. That's all I'm saying. So anyhow, so Pizarro came upon the same state of things in Peru, and both leaders availed themselves of it. In their perspective, conquest, yet beneath the fragment, and let's see, 68, 69. Okay, let's see. Okay, fragmentary and jarring life of the American tribes, there existed a unity which was real enough to have made them much stronger against the encroachment of the newcomers. Now, let's go back and see what we were actually talking about. Peru. Okay, so Montezuma, some willing and unwilling. Pizarro, I would like to see more about his story to see exactly what we're talking about. Came upon the same state of things in Peru, and both leaders availed themselves of it in their prospective conquest. Yet beneath this fragmentary and jarring life of the American tribes, there existed a unity which was real enough to have made them much stronger against encroachment of the newcomers. Okay. Too bad. I feel like some of us, or those that know who you are, yes, we talk a good game about sticking together, but they have been able to disassemble anything that has to do with us actually coming together and conforming or gaining that unity that I think we once had. And I think a lot of us can contest that even since the 1980s and the early 90s, there has been a breakdown of the so-called Black family. Whether it is something that was deeply wedged into our demise or destruction, but now knowing about it, we can do something about it, and we still cannot get back to that. So let's see, against the encroachment of the newcomers, if they had known enough to have availed themselves of it. Okay, so if they knew enough, okay, there are physical and to some extent intellectual characteristics which have been said by many to affirm an identity of a race throughout the continent. Okay, there are similarities running through the customs and the works of the various parts of the continent, which hint at the same thing quite clearly. What are we talking about? I don't know. Mr. Lewis H. Morgan. We can look up that guy. Okay, one of the most learned writers upon Indian affairs. Well, wow. Why don't we know about this guy? We have come across other writings from other people, but maybe you guys have, but I haven't. Reading about this stuff for all these years, I don't recall really looking at his stuff or getting a deeper view on it. So that would be a good name to go ahead and look at because he supposedly knew a lot about these people back then. So one of the most learned writers upon Indian affairs finds a common principle running through, and then we have to look at his motives and where he's coming from. Is he coming from a bias or prejudice standpoint? What was really going on? Is he one of the people that was coming over here and stealing the land and resources and wanted to remove the said Indians from off of their land? I don't know. So, finds a common principle. Sorry. Running through the architect of the American tribes. From the perishable longhouse of the Iroquois in central New York to the Pueblo houses of New Mexico and the deserted but durable palace at the or governor's house at Uxmal, I don't know, in Central America. Okay. This he names the principle of communism in living. He finds it illustrated in the fact that the Indians hunt in parties and traces it distinctly through other parts of the tribal life and customs. Dr. Morton, excuse me, claims that there is a distinction in cranial characteristics which affirms a twofold race. And what is that? Okay. Ethnology has not yet settled this question. Much discussion has been had upon the question of the origin of the American races. Theories bordering upon the fanciful have been broached by writers of great learning who have had curious nations to support. Amongst these is one affirming that the Indians are descendants of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Now, I have some stuff coming up on Israel, and when I say this, there is, when we're talking about these terms, house of Israel, Israel, children of Israel, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now we may be talking Hebrew, we may be talking, you know what I'm saying? But again, if it was the lost tribes, which tribes were found? Or again, if they lost you, where did they cut you off at? And then extend those tribes out to others that we may be talking about other people when we're talking about the children or the offspring or those who came or the house of or the kings of Israel. Okay? So, and then I was looking more about that. What's his name? Jacob, I want to say, that his name was then turned Israel after wrestling with the angel or whatever, or God or something. So, again, okay, Mr. George Jones of England. Ouch. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, y'all. Okay. That's another name I just wrote down. Spent years in establishing an argument to that effect and finally issued it to the public in a printed work. Okay. I guess we can kind of find this guy because, again, I don't think I've heard of him either. Maybe I would be familiar with his work if I read it, but I just can't think of it right off the top of my head. He but followed a path trodden by quite a number of Spanish and other writers. The subject is wrapped in a very great obscurity. So it's the subject is wrapped in very great obscurity. Little light is shed upon it. Save, ain't that something they use in the Bible? Save you or this, or, and I'm thinking it says it means except or if, or I don't know, but again, let's just read it. Light is shed upon it. Save or except, I don't know, that's what it sometimes means to me, by the traditions of different tribes. Okay? While these testify very clearly in some case to a migration, again, a migration, so they weren't always there. And assert that it took place from the west. Again, you got some people moving in from the west coast. They give no circumstances to which certain knowledge can be attached. The Ethbascan sounds like a biblical name to me. I'll unravel it to see which one it is. Of North America have perhaps the most clearly defined traditions of a journey across the Pacific. Okay, let's just write that down. Abyssinians, we'll get it. Okay. Across the Pacific, okay, most of the tribes of the North America, however, have been found to think that their own acquisition of the soil of the continent of a comparatively recent date. Okay, wait a minute. Many of the tribes of North America, however, have been found to think that their own acquisition. Let's just go back and see it, because I don't know all these words all the time. I mean, can I even still spell it? No, I didn't. Okay. Okay, late 14th century. Again, are we in the fourth day? Act of obtaining from Old French. So, from Old French. Purchase. Acquirement. Or directly from Latin, something, noun of action, past tense, stem, get, in addition, accumulate. I don't think we're talking about the Louisiana Purchase, but that would be a good, well, this book was in 83 or something like that. So it could be, talking about that. But in addition to something, accumulate, or it could be talking about how in the Bible or in his story, they moved certain people from the southeast and moved them over to Oklahoma. I don't know if those people were already there. I don't know. They made a mess of things when they moved everybody around. When we're talking about Exodus or the Trail of Tears or the Indian Removal Act, and all of this is the same in my eyes from doing the research and from my theory. Okay? These are talking about the Exodus is that. I've even found documents that says the Exodus of the Negro. So in my eyes, that's what we're talking about. And let me see. Again, it's kind of like even like with that whole Oklahoma thing when they burned down that town. What were you really mad about? They were probably mad because those people had been just removed and placed there, and they still was on the come up right away. And somebody didn't like this, and so they used one of those storylines, propaganda, a false flag moment, like we still use today in the news, but some people are just oblivious to it. In order to get some rage and some stuff going on. And this is how a lot of these things happen, okay? To pit one group against the other, okay? To seek, to obtain, meaningful. Now, this is also, it has to do with immigration or people coming, okay? Meaning, thing obtained is from late 15th century, okay, due to whatever. So anyway, we see what it means, okay? Collide, to strike together forcibly. Precise cut off. Let us cut them off, or just cut off. Let's see. A side word forming element meaning killer. So preside, when we're when we're talking about he wanted somebody to preside. um Zide or side means killer, cut, killer, slayer. Combined from cedar, I don't know, to strike down, to chop, to beat, hew, fell, slay, change. Oof. Represent killing, cutting, and killing. Okay, so let's see. Conquest, defeat of an adversary, subjugation or conquering by an armed force. So what was a conquest, really? Conquest. Again, are we in the fourth day still? We're in the 14th century, it looks like. Okay. Gain. Okay. So we saw. We came, we saw. Okay. So let's see. Where are we at? Most of the tribes of the North America, however, have been found to think that their own acquisition of the soil of this continent is of a comparatively recent date. So meaning that they just basically got there. So some of these people, it wasn't 15,000 years ago that these Siberian Mongolians type of races came over. Okay, and just because I'm saying these things like this doesn't mean that I'm being prejudiced or some kind of way to hateful against people. I'm just bringing information forward. Sometimes the truth hurts. It may hurt me once in a while when I hear, something that goes against, but I'm not going to try to go ahead and make my point valid when it is not. I'm just going to call it for what it is. Even if I thought I've done research on it for a long time and it seems to go away from what I'm saying, that's fine too. Okay, I don't mind that. I just want people to get something close to what might be seeming like a truth. Like I said, we don't know what the hell the truth is. Is truth even important at this point in time? Or is it just digging through everything and bringing it forth and letting it resonate with people how it should? Okay? Or activate those who need to be activated or awakened. Okay, so this very doubtful history or hysterical. Let's stop. This very doubtful. So doubtful to who? Why would you even say it's doubtful? Who? What circumstances? Well, let's keep reading. Maybe they'll tell us. This very doubtful historical evidence. Oh, but it's evidence. I don't know if it can be called historical. Okay, so they're going to just try to break it down because it doesn't fit the narrative, okay? Points to a time when the native races of America made their entrance into the land from the northwest. Okay? The languages of the American Indian have been diligently searched for testimony concerning this question, but they afford none which is decisive as yet. They appear to stand by themselves without a clear affinity, even of obscure roots. Okay? They tend to stand by themselves. I know some people that happens to, without a clear affinity, even of obscure roots. I know somebody else that has obscure roots. Everybody else claim to know exactly who and where and when, where they came from and where they belong to any other language in the world. It is true, they are comparatively little known, and the larger number of dialects not fully understood makes it difficult to affirm anything as to what may be expected Let's see. Wait a minute. It is true. Okay. Affirm anything as to what may be expected to be revealed in this quarter in the future. Okay, I think that's where we were. The dialect of the South America are far more numerous than those of North America, and furnish no end of comparison to the student. Much work has been done upon some of the Eastern uh, dialect in North America. Scholars upon both sides of the Atlantic have been fascinated by the study of them till a good basis of grammatical knowledge has been laid for future use. We have grammar and dictionaries in many dialects, which are monuments of faithful. Okay. Research. The growth and progress of American nations are constantly opening more of the original dialect of the country to the study of the learned. We may hope for a more certain classification at some time of the tongues which have ceased to be heard over a great part of the New World. Okay, so they're happy about this. Okay, so the civilization of, or lack of civilization in the America at its discovery was of a great many different degrees. Hmm. There were tribes which were entirely roving in their instincts and modes of life. Now, what would be wrong with that? They formed no local attachments and fled like the wind from place to place. What's wrong with that? Maybe that's what's wrong with some of us now. Being stuck in certain places and living there and being there, especially in a certain conditions that you don't, that spiritually your soul cannot even really resonate with. Okay. And we wonder, like the wind from place to place, according as they could best supply their temporary needs. And then again, when did you start this? Was it after people had came and invaded, and then now you have to move about on your own land in a different way because they have certain weapons that you do not have, and this is how they were able to actually defeat you? There's no other way. I'm sorry, there's no other way. There's no other way that it could have been done. Poisoning, sneaking, deceit, stealing, killing, things like this. Okay? For this reason, among others, their dwellings were of most movable kind, and all of their arrangements for living were of least possible permanency. Most of the North American tribes partook somewhat of this feature. Many of them secured great sections of the country within the limits of which their roving bands hunted, fished, and cultivated the soil. Mm, You know what? I need to see what that is. Let's see what its true definition is. Ah! See, I was getting there. Y'all know, you see what word is right there? You see what word was right there that I was going to go ahead and go into. Here it is, till. By 1650, of land till. To till. There was no one to till. Cultivate or cultivate. Prepare for crops. Right? Prepare for crops. For planting, for seeding. Who are the crops? By 1690s, of crops raised or produced by tillage. Now, when we go back to the story of Cain and Abel, and one was a tiller of the ground and one was a herder of the sheep, does that mean one might have been put there to till the ground? Like some people, whoever the people are we talking about. I don't know if we're talking about natives. I don't know if we're talking about something other. But again, and then one there to herd the sheep. Now, we know chattel, slavery now, right? Right? Okay. Okay. Because cattle or something would be something that you herd together, you know. Okay. Raised or produced by tillage. Okay. So, someone would need to infiltrate or get into it. And then someone would be there to do the rest or take over. To cultivate. Tilled. Care, labor, cultivation. From past particle of color, to cultivate, to till, to inhabit. So inhabitants of the land, like we were just talking about in that page 69, I believe. So when he came there, they called them the inhabitants. To frequent, practice, respect, tend, guard, revolve, move, round, sojourn, dwell. So dwell with, sojourn, I think that's something to mingle with. Okay. Uh, 1660s, of person, cultured. Replenish was one of the words that we had in the Bible. So cultured, refined, educated. 1797. We got the first president in 1798, I believe. And it says of the land. So I guess it was cultivated. It was done in 1797. So then they can bring a president or someone to preside over and to keep the garden and to till it. No, our tilling had already been done, but to keep it and dress it and subdue the land. To keep it in order, keep it in check. Subject to cultivation. It was uncultivated in the 1640s. My question is, are we in the sixth day? Are we in the sixth day? Then we in the seventh day. You get it? Okay. God could rest in the seventh day. Prior to this, I believe that was 1776. But that's just what I'm just believing. Okay. So 1640 figurative. 1680 of plants. 1690 of land. So what is this? So for it to be figuratively speaking or being spoken to, and then uncultivating of the plants and uncultivated of the land in the 1690s. Cultivator, one who or that which cultivates. 1660, from cultivate, as the name of an agricultural tool for breaking up ground. Now, what would you say? This is nothing prejudice. I told you before, my husband is mixed. I have nothing against people when it comes to race. I see the things that have been done for what they are, although I am standing for my people that are looking like me. And it's not to say that he doesn't look like me and my children don't look like me. We have brown skins and we have light skins in this family. You know, it's split actually right down the middle. So, but what I'm saying is that the land has been cultivated. If the actual darker view, heavily melanated or red, brown, copper colored people, or even sometimes black, they said, were the people in America when they first came here. If this was true, and then you have people coming in here that are of a lighter, fairer skin, coming in, planting seed and seeding the land and breaking it up, and they have guns and might and different things that can maybe try to subdue or take over a nation. Again, they would be raping and pillaging as well. They would be breeding as well. These type of things, they just gave you the wrong perception of what was going on. Okay, a lot of slaving and enslaving people and capturing people in that sense also were breeding farms and breeding, you know, so that was cultivating or breaking up the land, because now you have it so people think it's cute or it's the thing to do to have a light-skinned baby so they can have a certain type of hair or so that they can have certain eye color or these things like this. Okay, so again, but we don't know what's going on when we're doing that. You can't go back to the original once the originee is gone. So if there is enslaving, as far, well, we're all slaves, including white folks. Okay, but if we want to talk about as far as how many of us, if we are the smaller portion, so-called, of the population here, the 13%, 10%, whatever it is, and we're killing each other, we got other people killing us. They don't get in trouble. So other people are going to latch on to doing the same thing. This killing and culling and raping of these people have been going on for, along with other people too, but for so long that if they're a small part of the population, it's probably time to think about. It's kind of like an endangered species. I mean, to a certain extent. Who's going to say something? But many will go on and try to act oblivious or try to say, well, you know, this and that and that and that and everything under the sun, except for what's being cried out by certain people. Okay? So, again, that was cultivating. And if you're choosing to do that to your bloodline or to your heritage or your family tree still to this day without really having a real valid reason, I think it's sad. You know, but there's enough cultivating going on. And other things going on, damaging things going on to those people. You know, yeah, you have to really get somebody down and you have to really let somebody take you there and be uneducated about yourself and your story in order to let it get this far. So, let's see. Cultivable. Capable of being tilled. So, okay, 1680. Okay. So, 1680. Okay, so yeah. So then we go back here that it was capable. So it was ready. So the figurative part, you know, in 1640s and above, beyond, and of course stuff was going on before that. But 1680 of the plants, and then 1680 now it was, you know, capable of being tilled. Okay. Cultivation, devoting a special attention or study of development of a branch of knowledge. By 1716, the general sense of not ethnology and all these other things, I wonder if this has something to do with this. So promotion of mental growth and development, in both cases figuratively, to till, cultivate, meaning to raise, the raising of plant or crop is from 1719, sense of the act of practicing tilling land, preparing it for crops. Again, so I wonder when they then decided to preserve or reserve by putting natives on reservations, and cutting them off and making certain laws so that now you would have to test so-called American Negroes' blood to these foreigners' blood in order to get into the tribes. But all in all, you couldn't do that because these people are not the Aborigines. So how about you take Lucia, whatever her name is, from, oh, well, no, I think that got damaged in the fire that happened, that they knew was going to happen, and they let it happen down there at that museum. Okay, get mad if you want, but the people said it, that they should have been did this, and they were working on that and everything, and it was just too damn late. So take her and then test the American Negroes to her bloodline, not to the new foreigners or the descendants of foreigners. Okay, so that was a death trap right there in order to keep you out. Okay, so not to say that some of those people aren't linked to your descendants as well, but I'm just saying they knew what they were doing when they did it that way. Okay. Okay, so again, to lay out and cultivate the garden. So he planted the man in the east of the garden so he can do whatever he wanted to do to it. Tidy up, till, cultivate the land, plow, again, cultivate, tend, work, get, by labor. Is that not what happened? Originally, strive after, aim at, aspire to. These all are things that are still going on. Fixed point, goal, till, good, get, cultivate. Okay, so I don't want to send you here too much. Let's go ahead and try to finish through this real quick before I get out here. So, let's see. Which have been said by many to affirm identity of the race throughout the continent. There are similarities made throughout the customs and the works in the various parts of the continent, which hint at the same thing quite clearly. Mr. Lewis H. Morgan, one of the most learned writers upon Indian affairs. Wait, we read that. 70. Okay. Tribes were roving instincts. Okay, so let's just see. We may hope for a certain classification, same time, of the tongue and, okay, the civilization or lack of civilization in America at its discovery was the great many differences of degrees. Okay, we were down here, I think. Many of them secured great sections of the country within the limits of which they were roving bands, hunted, fished, and cultivated the land. Okay, so again, I think that we're talking about those that are native, okay, not the originals. When it's talking about this, I could be wrong, but yeah. And cultivated the soil so far as it was cultivated by them at all. Okay. Some of their villages were built and palisaded in a comparatively strong manner, but even this was not a sign of permanence for a long series of years when Jacques Cartier, the bold French mariner, first visited the present site of Montreal. He found such a village, and he was received within its defense hospitably. Okay, so, but we're in Montreal, so I don't know. But when Champlain reached the spot 68 years afterwards, not a trace of former inhabitants remained. On the other hand, the Furious, I don't know, Iroquois held their abode for a long period in central New York around the beautiful lakes, which are the delight of the region, They were there in 1609. There's a lot of stuff that was going on in 1609. And then 1619, you get things with so-called slaves or Africans being brought in, the 20 some odd, when Chaplin discovered the lake which bear his home and were never displaced by any Indian race. Their power faded only before that of the white man, for no tribe of Indians could ever hope to break it. Okay, so the firmament was there. In Mexico and Peru, the dwellings of the natives were still more permanent. And again, I mean, I'm sure they have government down there, but I don't think it's maybe as strict as ours is here, which we think we're free, but it's really not. So, and their life, therefore, was much more steady. Okay, I see that. Stone, which was unknown as a building material in the eastern United States, was used very largely by the southern nations. So were these the southern nations that were now up here using stone in the east coast? I'm not sure. Hence, when Cortez entered the city of Mexico, he was surprised to see the solidity and durability of the structures which lined the streets on either hand. Not many of the buildings were more than 1 story in height. The so-called palace. So first they called it a palace. Now they're saying it's a so-called palace. Built by Montezuma's father, in which Cortez quartered his troops, okay, was a long 1-story stone building with a 2nd story rising from the center of the flat roof. Everything was solid with stone. In Peru, similar cities were found by Pizarro, Tumbes, I don't know him either, and Cuzco. I think I've heard of Cuzco. Okay, were fine examples of the permanent work of the higher American tribes. Okay, now, higher where? I don't know. The methods of self-support among the Indians partook closely of this permanency or lack of permanency, which characterized the different tribes. The roving tribes lived upon what they could easily get of the game or fish. Perhaps during the summer, the squaws scratched a little maize or a few beans and squash seeds into the earth. Okay, and with just enough labor to induce them to grow. Okay, agriculture was unknown among them, save, again, these are terms that we use in the Bible, save of this most vague and desultory kind. Okay, from these were ascend to the Mexican Indians. Okay, so we got some Mexican Indians. So how in the heck, if these are the same people, how are you going to try to tell these people they can't come across the border? That's so funny. So Mexican Indians who cultivated the fruits of the earth. Okay, wait a minute. Now, these Mexican Indians cultivated the fruits of the earth. So whatever fruit was coming from the earth, these people cultivated it. Whether we're talking about physical fruits or whether we're talking about the fruits coming from those trees, those family trees of the earth in the systematic manner, and had their beautiful floating gardens upon the lake around the city of Mexico for the raising of flowers and vegetables. Okay, so now we're really talking about flowers and vegetables. Okay, so let's see what else. Tobacco was in quite was in quite common use throughout the continent. There were no domestic animals save the dog and the flama, but I guess that's llama, which was found only among the Peruvians who used its hair in the weaving of garments. Thousands of these latter animals were pastured upon the slopes of the Peruvian mountains. The manufactures of the continent were based upon the needs. Okay, so the manufacturers of the continents were based upon the needs of the tribes, just as the agricultural operations were, but they were also largely molded by the delight of ornaments which existed everywhere. Each tribe constructed articles which were necessary for its use. The northern Indians made snowshoes, which the southern Indians never constructed because they never needed them. Okay, and we're just going to go ahead and end there. I'll come back with the rest tomorrow. Hope you guys stick around. The book is very interesting, and I think it should be like a one more part of that, and then we can go into other parts of the book here and there. Okay. So anyhow, I would like to thank you guys for stopping by. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up or comment below if you have a question or any type of content you would like me to look for. And I would, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.